for season 2 of the podcast. And we have friends today. We're so excited to have friends. And we'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves. We'll start with Carol.
Hi, I'm Carol Blaylock. I'm Recruitment and Retention Coordinator for South Harnett Elementary and Star Academy, and I also work with our pre-service teachers.
Hi, I'm Alicia Washington, R&R Coordinator as well, and I have Andrew Elementary in the Triton attendance area.
I'm Greg Griffin. I'm back. They didn't fire me. And I'm a Recruitment and Retention Coordinator as well for Harnett County Schools. I have the Overhills area schools as well as Johnsonville and Anderson Creek.
And I'm Jessica. I'm a part of this awesome team too. And I have Harnett Central Middle, High, Boone Trail, Lillington Shawtown, North Harnett Primary, Lafayette, and Northwest Elementary.
And I'm Shelby Kanya. I'm also on the R&R team. I support Bowie's Creek Elementary School and all of our international faculty across the county.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle Van Cannon, Recruitment and Retention Coordinator. I have the Western High, Western Middle, Highland Elementary, Highland Middle, Ben Haven, and the Early College Ben Haven campus.
Yes, and so we're doing a Recruitment and Retention Coordinator Roundtable today. In our district, we are called R&Rs, which stands for Recruitment and Retention. Would one of you like to tell what we do in a nutshell? Who would like to describe what we do quickly?
Well, we do all kinds of things, but we're mostly given the opportunity to work with our beginning teachers. We recruit them through Indeed, through college job fairs, through all kinds of job fairs we hold locally. And then we support them their first 3 years in the classroom any way they need us to or don't need us to. We'll step back. But we do a lot of work with them with classroom management, licensure requirements, parent communication, how to get along with their colleagues, all kinds of things that sometimes make being a new teacher hard. We kind of help them, we scaffold them through that so that it's an easier process for them, so they'll want to stay.
Yeah, we wear a lot of hats. We do a lot of different things. My first question for the group today is, what is the most challenging thing about this role? I know I love this role. I've been in this role now this is my 8th year. I can't believe that. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it, but there are challenges. So what would you say are some of the challenging things about this position?
I mean, I'll just start and just say I think we all know, if you're here listening and you're a teacher, you know that teaching is a hard job.
Right.
It's the most fulfilling job. But it's emotionally draining and your to-do list is never done. So I think just, really trying to support and coach teachers, because we all know what it feels like, especially during our first year, just trying to not get up. We don't want them to give up. We want them to hang in there. And so I think that's definitely a big challenge. There's others.
Anybody else?
So challenge for us as R&R or teacher?
No, challenge for you as the R&R coordinator.
I think for me, I'm working with children and then transitioning, working with adults is different.
Right.
I just feel like in the classroom, my kids listen. Sometimes with adults, they do the opposite of what you say. And then also too, as a teacher, you're frustrated. Sometimes those frustrations comes out on us, and they might be going through something personal. I will say that's what I would say for me. Working with adults sometimes can be challenging.
Yeah. I would say for me, it's like prioritizing who needs the help. Usually I have 80-ish teachers on my caseload that I'm supposed to provide support for, and sometimes several of them may need support. And so trying to determine who needs the support the most and to get there and to work it into my schedule. Any other thoughts?
I agree with that. Working with our international faculty, I support teachers at, I think this year it's 27 of our 28 schools, and so time management, prioritizing who needs the support, but just also helping those teachers adapt, to life here in a new country,
Right.
But also learning how to manage and set up a classroom in the United States. They come with us with all this experience. But, some of our friends can be a little bit more challenging than others sometimes. So helping them be successful their first year, but prioritizing the time that's tough.
Anybody else have a thought before I go on to my next question?
Covered it.
Okay. All right. And this is a great question. I cannot wait to hear. By the way, they don't know the questions.
They're probably wishing that.
They don't know the questions. How have students changed since you left the classroom? We go into classrooms all the time. And how have students changed since you left the classroom? And would you conduct business differently if you left this role and went back to teaching? And if so, how would it be different?
I definitely believe that the students have changed since I've been in the classroom. I left the classroom in 2013, so it's been a while, and technology was not really a factor. Phones in their pockets was not a factor when I was in the classroom. And so I do believe that if I were to re-enter the classroom and that I would have to definitely change the way I do classroom management, so that the classroom and the learning and the content can be the center of attention and not what's on their cell phones. And so I know there will be a learning curve there since it has been a while. But I do have my own children who are of that age, and I deal with that at home. So.
We have yonder pouches this
Yes.
year. They're not going to be on their little phones.
That's right.
Shouldn't be as much. Anybody else want to take a crack at that one?
I was just thinking the same thing, kind of on different lines. Just though there's so many more resources with technology than there were when I was in the classroom. Like I remember moving classrooms because the one down the hall had a smart board, and now everybody has everything. So I think just incorporating those into my, those resources with technology into my lesson plans, that would be different. But I do think kids are kids. Some of the same behaviors that we see now, we saw then. I don't think that has changed that much, in my opinion.
Do y'all think that kids have gotten a little bit squirmier?
That's what I was going to say. That I feel like the more they've been exposed to all this technology, and I feel like their attention spans are definitely less. Or and I feel like going into the classroom, I would definitely have to have a lot more activities for them to do. There would be a lot more movement and different things than there were. For me, I mean, I taught little ones. I taught second graders, and I just feel like the primary grades are really, their attention span has really gotten less and less over the years. So
I see kids that are like jumping beans more now, and they're jumpier,
True.
and stuff like that. And so I do think that I think I would need to chunk more than I ever did.
That's right.
Back then, and for those of you listening that might not know, that chunking is when you cut you portion your different activities until you do something for 15 or 20 minutes and you shift gears, and you do something for 15, 20 minutes and then you shift gears. Instead of, I was still doing activities for an entire class period 10 years ago, depending on what it was. Something. I think I would need to be careful about that. Any other thoughts about that before we move on to my next question? Tell me about a success story working with a teacher. I want to hear about, a lot of times I know that we work with teachers, and I was an instructional coach. So was Michelle, was instructional coach. Shelby and others, Jessica. We were instructional coaches before this, and there are a lot of times when you go in and try to help a teacher, and no matter what you do, you feel like you can't make things better. But I want to hear about some success stories. Like, tell me about a time when you coached a teacher or worked with them and it was a happy ending. Do we have any of those?
All the time, I feel like.
Of course we do.
That's the correct answer.
Yeah.
I have one, not necessarily, it's not focused on instruction, just the teacher was going through at the time. So I'm not a therapist, anything like that. I'm a good listener. So taking the time to listen to her, going out there, checking on her, sending her those encouraging emails, just pushed her through, I feel like. And the note that I got at the end of the year saying, you know, I wouldn't have made it without your encouragement this year. She was great classroom management, instruction wise, but she was going a lot through her personal life, and it took an effect on her work life. And so for me, it's not all about the instruction academic. It's not all about that all the time. We go through, everybody has problems and has situations that they're experiencing, and it's good to have someone just to listen. Everybody doesn't and I will say now, mental health, guys, if you need some help, therapists with our insurance is free, so
That's right.
you know, but at that time it was not, so I was her little therapist for her during that time.
I have a success story. So I had a teacher that started, I think she started last year the day before open house. So we literally set up her classroom like on the day of open house. And she was in 5th grade, and she did a good job, but she did have some challenges throughout the year. Classroom management was hard, just keeping up with all of the things, lesson planning, some of the content. And her principal moved her to 2nd grade, and I think just all of the things she learned from her first year and then moving to a different grade level, I think that was a better fit for her, and she is just soaring now. She is doing so well, and so I think sometimes even thinking about little things like that, but I think everybody's first year is hard, and we all just have to go through those.
They're not telling the truth if they say it's not.
Right.
I don't think they are.
I remember, personally, crying right before Christmas,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what have I done with my life?
Absolutely.
But it gets better.
If you
Like,
can,
I always like to see them when they're the teacher of the year from their
Yes.
school or something like
Yes,
that, and they're
yes.
recognized. And I don't work in as many schools as they do, because I do a lot of licensure support. And for me, when they finally get that clear license and they've passed all their licensure tests and all that, and to see how excited and to take that bit of stress off of, oh, that always feels good. I got an email today and it was all caps, I passed, with about 10 exclamation points, and that was like, that always makes me feel good. So
And just, like you said, teacher of the year, like I have somebody in my head right now who was a BT. She was a teacher of the year last year. We send people to her all the time to observe. So we definitely have a lot to celebrate. Yes.
yeah. So that's most of the teachers that we probably referenced here were coachable.
Yes.
And the next question is about coachability, and so that'll segue nicely into that. I want to talk about coachability for a minute. What are some strategies, or what can be done when teachers are resistant to feedback, or when teachers aren't following through with implementing strategies for improvement that are communicated to them by the coach or the principal or whoever? Are there any strategies that you've seen that have proven to be effective for reaching those teachers that are harder to coach?
I think sometimes it takes a little bit longer for the teacher to do the level of reflection necessary to see that they need the help. So as a former instructional coach and now as an R&R, I think patience and not giving up on the teacher, and just letting them know that when you're ready, I'm here. And, you know, I have strategies I'm happy to share whenever you're ready. And then that way they know that you're available when they are ready, because sometimes it just takes a certain level of reflection.
And I think sometimes just seeing it in action, like you can say something to somebody, but they don't really understand what you mean. So going, like having those observation opportunities to go and see how they manage this, or how they organize this, or how they plan this. And then on the flip side of that, you know, I have had experiences where teachers will go and observe and they're like, well, their kids are not like my kids. I don't think my kids would do that. So on the flip side of that, sometimes it's good to go in and co-teach so they can see, oh, my kids can do this. They can go to the rug in an orderly fashion, or they can turn and talk without it being chaotic. So, you know, those are two strategies that come to my mind.
Anything else?
I feel like a big thing is just having that positive relationship with your teachers. Like, they need to know that we're not their evaluator.
Right.
You know, we're here.
Absolutely.
We're here to help them be successful. We're on their team.
Yes, absolutely.
And so we push that with teachers having positive relationships with their students. I think it's important for us to have that as well.
And I think you need to avoid just giving advice all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that. they're going to feel like they're just being bossed around, or that they don't have any input in their own career.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, if
Just
you go
find
in
like
and-
one
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
like what's the biggest
Yeah.
thing, and let's focus on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think Michelle and I have done an extensive training during mentor training about the right questions can be like, how do you think it went today?
Right.
Instead of going in and saying, oh, that was really bad today. How do you think it went? You know? And if they're able to say, like you were talking about, you're leading them into reflection. And if they say, oh, it wasn't very good, they didn't have to hear it from you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then you can say, okay, well then what did you want to have? Why don't you tell me what your vision was?
Yeah.
What did you want to see? And then, then you can kind of work backwards and let's talk about when it went off the rails and what we could have done differently. Like a detective, and with curiosity and not judgment.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like treat it like a crime scene.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to go back and we're going to look for clues as to when it all went downhill.
My favorite coaching question is always, okay, on a scale from 1 to 10,
Uh-huh.
how would you rank that lesson?
Okay.
And what could make it bump up, or make it better, different than how that goes.
Or what made it a 3?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Why
do you think? Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I would have listened to this podcast before I was an instructional coach my first year, because I feel like I would do things differently now.
Well, that
Just-
But
Oh, go ahead, Alicia. I'm sorry.
like sharing your experiences with them.
Yeah.
yes.
Sometimes they look at us like, oh, y'all, I know you guys always thrived in the classroom.
No,
and
no,
I'm
no.
like, no,
No.
I struggle. So
Right.
sharing our own experiences with them and
I think that's the beauty of retention is to keep going, because you use all those experiences to build and to be better, and the reflection is so important, like honest reflection. Not, oh, that was great.
yeah,
from
exactly.
I know, and just thinking from a beginning teacher standpoint, I think sometimes, I know when I was a beginning teacher, I thought, oh, they've got it all together, or their lessons go perfectly. But the truth is, no matter if you've been teaching 1 year or 25 years, there's always things that you would, usually, we might have a perfect lesson here and there, but usually there's always things that we would tweak or we would do differently, or so it's not just, it's everybody.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of teaching.
Yes, absolutely. And I did have a perfect lesson or two.
You did.
I'm just kidding. I never have. They were never perfect. Close enough to perfect. Right. Okay. My last question here is, what is one super important thing that you have learned since you've been working with adults, coaching teachers, maybe something that you didn't know before you left the classroom? What's something that you learned when you started going into a whole bunch of different classrooms? What did you learn?
Yeah, well, it was really interesting to see that not everybody conducts business the way that I conducted business. I just assumed that when the students walked in the door, everybody had something ready for the children to do. I just assumed that when the teacher was talking, the kids were taught to not talk over top of the teacher, and that behavior was not acceptable. So a lot of classroom management, eye-opening experiences, but then also from an instructional standpoint as well, it was eye-opening to see the struggle points that teachers had with coming up with a variety of instructional strategies to keep the kids engaged, to best relay the content. You forget after you've been teaching for a number of years that this stuff is not old hat to everybody. And so you take for granted that everybody doesn't understand or doesn't know instructional strategies that you feel like you just were born with, but of course you weren't. You learned those somewhere along the way. So I would say they were eye-opening experiences for both classroom management and instruction.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? What have you learned since you started coaching adults?
I will say on a different note is like when I was in the classroom, I was in my bubble, right? I had my classroom, I had, our PLC, our team. But what's been fun is I've learned from other teachers, like going into other teachers' classrooms. I'm like, I love that. If I were to go back in the classroom, I would implement that. So I feel like I've also learned and grown as an educator, but that's where I think you talked about it's so important for teachers to learn from other teachers. Like go observe, go see, because sometimes you get caught up in your classroom and what you have going on, but there's a lot of great resources at your school that you can learn from and incorporate into your classroom.
That's been one of my favorite things is seeing what other teachers are doing, and I've seen all the different grade levels. I mean, that's been wonderful to see all that, because I was in my little island of my classroom too, and I love to see what other people are doing, and I would do a lot of things differently if I were back in the classroom.
And I'm not opposed to stealing ideas. You know,
No,
I'll give you
yeah.
credit, but that's one thing that I've learned is that there's a lot of other ideas, great ideas out there that you don't know it all. So.
Well, and nothing's original.
No.
You know, it's not even that we're stealing. We're just sharing an idea that we got from somebody else. And nothing. I'm not going to say nothing. Very little is original.
Yeah.
So, I think it's important to create that culture. And I know this is not exactly answering the question, but it's important to create that culture on your PLC, in your school, on your grade level, whatever it needs to be, that we're in this together and we collaborate and share ideas.
Yes.
We just make it our own.
That's right. There were no Pinterest boards when I started.
Absolutely not. I have one last question, and I want everybody to answer it as we go around, and then we'll sign off for today. And I'm either gonna start with Michelle or Carol.
Oh, yeah.
Every awesome classroom should have. I'm going with Michelle. Real quick answer.
A teacher that is excited to see his or her kids every day.
Good.
Oh, I
love it.
That's really
We'll go ahead. Every awesome classroom should have.
routines and procedures. More boring. Sorry.
Jessica.
Oh, I want to say a lot, but I'm going to go with organization.
Okay. Every good classroom should have organization, says Jessica.
I'm gonna say classroom management.
Okay.
I think every great classroom should have a family atmosphere. I think everybody should feel like they're a part of that classroom community.
Oh, good. And I'm going to say that every awesome classroom should have engagement.
Yes.
Right? Every day in some way. That might not have to be, around the clock, but at some point there should be something that should engage at least most of your students. Any final thoughts before we sign off today?
Just that we're here for you. We want to be there for you.
Yeah.
We love seeing you in the schools.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
glad we all got to talk today.
Yes, and we are recruitment and retention coordinators for Harnett County Schools. So if you're by chance listening and you have a college degree, you're not teaching,
They're hiring.
we might be able to bring you in on an alternative license. Just give us a call. Check out our website, harnett.k12.nc.us. All right.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
All right.